What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Bryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What is up, Av Geeks? It is Ryan coming at you live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in my basement. Hope you guys are all having a good night. Really excited to have you here. I'm really excited I needed this week. I needed my friends, my Av Geek friends, my SuperAero squadron. I needed you guys this week. I'm excited to get going. Before we get started, you guys know the drill. Share, like. Sharing is the hugest thing that you could do. Share, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Also, wanted to show you something kind of cool. Early Father's Day present. My 5-year-old daughter, but really my wife, grabbed a SuperAero patch and threw it on a hat. How cool is that? That rhymed. I didn't even mean to do that. You could get a patch too, doing the Patreon thing. I'm dropping them everywhere. Patches galore, guys. Come check it out if you really, really like what I'm doing. Otherwise, just subscribe and share. That's all huge. Anyway, hope you guys checked out the show last week with Pilot Annie. She's super, super cool, and even though we had some technical issues, we worked through them. There was the Thunderdome up in Canada last week, and next week, kind of exciting thing. So you guys keep complaining that we don't have any real pilots on this show, and now I'm going to be honest, today's guest, I have seen him fly an airplane, although I guess not in person, so I think he's actually a real pilot. But next week, really excited, we've got Chris Henry and Hal Bryan of EAA, but they're going to be talking about the book they wrote called The Final Mission. So give that a Google, check it out. It's going to be really cool. We're going to talk about the greatest generation, old Warbirds, and World War II stuff. So it's going to be really fun. Also going to be really interesting because I'm going to have two people on the show with two first names. And speaking of someone with two first names, I've got to introduce you to our guest tonight, Mr. Wolficorn. Bryan Keith is here to join us. Except I didn't transfer it. I didn't transfer it because I hit the wrong button. There he is!
Hey, what's going on?
I know how to work things. I know how to work the the internet. Thanks so much for being here, man.
I'm a real pilot. I think so. I mean, at least I play one on YouTube, so...
You have definitely had me convinced. And before we get too far, we should say hi to a couple people in the chat. A lot of people came out tonight too. There's so much conversation, right? Just Plain Silly here, the other Brian with a Y, Wolf Pilots here, Gary Smith's here, Dutchy Girl, all the way from
up everybody.
The future is here. Marty's here, Krueger's here. Man, so many people are here. Oh, 782 Papa's here. Zach Sherman. Zach, dude, you've been showing up to every live stream. You probably have seen him in the chat.
Yeah, I've seen Zach in the feed and Brian and all these guys. Wolf Pilot. So thanks for coming back.
This is awesome. Magical Flying Machine is here. I don't know if I've seen you before, but I like the channel. I think I've clicked on your channel before. So cool. So many people in the chat. People are talking about trout. People, you're drinking a beer. I forgot my beer. I only have water.
I'm flying. I'm flying. This is actually cool. I'm actually making a video at 7,500 feet while we're streaming, and I'm drinking a little beer, so it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, what's great is it doesn't even seem like you've got that heavy of a workload right now. You're doing like a really good job.
Autopilot.
You've got an autopilot in that thing.
Yeah, I do. It's nice.
So looks like we've got Gabriella's here. Man, we've got a whole bunch new audience this week. I'm really excited to have you guys all here. So as we're going through tonight, and you guys are all, as Brian and I are chatting about stuff, definitely be sure to hit a question in the chat. I was super distracted by the chat when Annie was on. I'm going to try to be way more polite to you, Brian. and not.
Thank you.
Well, already they're making fun of.
I watched it. You were polite to Annie. You were polite to Annie.
I just felt distracted. But like, look, how can you ignore comments like this? Wolf Pilot says, "Water? What? Oh, you're drinking a Bud Light.
You're drinking a Bud Light?
You're drinking a Bud Light." Now, I got to tell you, Wolf Pilot, that is also just super offensive to a Milwaukeean. Because we drink Miller.
This is a Golden Road IPA, for those wondering, so... Excellent, made in Los Angeles beer. I recommend.
This is just good old-fashioned Milwaukee tap water, but Milwaukee tap water is where they bottle Dasani. If you get that bottled water, it's just.
I did not know that.
It's just Milwaukee tap water.
Straight from the Lake Michigan, or?
Yeah, they just pump it in. They don't even filter or anything. It's all the poop right in there.
I won't buy that next time.
Yeah, don't do it. Okay, so let's get started. Bong drinking. That's a super reference to. Okay. Focus, Ryan. Okay, here we go. So, in case you guys haven't seen Brian's stuff, he sent me, Brian, you sent me like a cool little overview video, and I thought maybe we could just start with that so people could see, because I've been following you for a while. I think you've got like legit magical moments on your channel, and I think maybe this intro that you sent me is a good like way to tee it up.
Nice.
All right, let's watch that real quick. Can I also say that I'm just like super jealous of your logo?
Dude, thank you so much. Actually, my amazing girlfriend, she designed that for me, so I love it as well. And thank you.
Like, I just like this feels like it's so hip, it's so cool, and separately, like looks like something that like I kind of want to tattoo that on me.
Well, go for it. You have my permission. I would love that, actually.
Is that what we need to do to get a? That's the price of admission for a collaboration between the two of us. Is I have to get a Wolficorn tattoo.
Well, I'll do a SuperAero tattoo. How's that?
Yeah, but this is not as pretty. It's not as pretty. I don't know if it's gonna focus on that. Yours is like.
I'll do that one like on my face.
Yeah, like up here.
True dedication.
Down here, yeah. Some folks from Mexico in the chat. Hey, everyone from Mexico. That's amazing.
Hey,
we're going internet.
Están a todos mis amigos mexicanos.
I don't speak Spanish, but what he said.
No, I've got a bunch of friends down there. My girlfriend's from Mexico City, so
awesome.
bunch of peeps down there. So I'm glad they showed up.
Rock on. That's super super cool. I have it was a good story to tell at Mexico City or not. I did like a 12-hour layover in Mexico City once, and I was all excited to like go explore Mexico City. I was like leaving the airport, I had like my backpack, the whole thing, and there's a police officer, and he was like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Don't, just stay here." I was like, "Do I look that?" like naive and vulnerable? Like I was excited. I wanted to get some culture in Mexico.
Maybe you don't want to walk around the neighborhood right there, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
It's an amazing city, amazing people, awesome food. So
this is what I missed out on. Instead, I sat and waited for my flight by like a McDonald's.
No,
which is so embarrassing.
You did it wrong.
Astrid says, "Hello, Brian. We love you from Mexico."
Astrid, besos.
Love it. Awesome. Okay.
By the way, that's like all my Spanish I'm just getting out right now. I'm not. My Spanish is terrible. So.
Oh, okay. I was assuming I was gonna have to get one of those like translate apps. we just do it in. The other thing that I just noticed is Nick Moore's got an over/under on the time before my glasses. I think he meant glasses. My glasses start fogging. That's a thing that's happened on a couple chats. You've been there for that.
Yeah.
So we're too early. Too early. So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit. We watched that intro video, teased a lot of cool stuff in there, but I would just love to start with, like, how did you find aviation? Like, where do we start in the Wolficorn journey?
The Wolficorn story. Well, actually, it's been in the family. I will say my dad is a retired Air Force American Airlines pilot, so I was always kind of around it like that. I never wanted to be an airline pilot, but I always wanted to be an astronaut, probably like most little boys out there, and wanted to be the first man on Mars. And high school, college rolls around, and I kind of put that on the side, and did college things, and kind of put it off until this is gonna be weird, and it's a little morbid, but it's true. And what got me into taking flying lessons was I was living in New York City, and in 2006, I don't know if you remember, there was an accident there. There was a Yankees baseball pitcher named Corey Lytle, and he had a Cirrus, and he flew it accidentally into a building in Manhattan. And I was working in Midtown Manhattan when that happened, and obviously it was a big deal there at the time with 9/11 and all that. But because of that accident, I just got super intrigued and just kind of opened back my pilot and aviation interest. And I did more research, and like literally 3 months after that accident, I was doing my first flight lesson in a Diamond DA-20, which was
cool.
an awesome it was an awesome airplane. So
it's funny because you mentioned, like, maybe you don't remember that. I don't remember that accident at all. Like,
2006. I mean, obviously I remembered it because I was literally
you were living there,
half a mile away from where it was. It was a big deal at the time, I thought, and and I don't know. I've always followed airplane incidents, so it kind of grabbed my attention. So
we're gonna talk about you talking about aviation incidents in a little bit.
True.
I wanted to ask you, mostly because I don't know how to segue to this. So what people might not know is that we work in the same industry. You and I both make TV commercials and things like that. Mm-hmm. You do the editing side, is that right?
Correct. I'm a video editor. Yep.
So that's why your videos are so good. But I wanted to show, like, what's interesting is I think everyone in the chat has probably seen some of your work. Here's one that hopefully won't get this video taken down. I don't know if you want to talk about that, what that is.
Nice. If that was the peak of my career, then I don't know what to say. Yeah, I did that. I did edit California Girls by Katy Perry. It's true.
So this is like for people listening later, this is the iconic like Candyland video with the cupcake outfits. I'm curious though, like let's just jump away.
It was a hard video to do.
What from an editor's standpoint, I'm just gonna let it run on a loop over and over again.
Oh no.
From an editor's standpoint, like, is there anything inside knowledge that people don't know about that video? Like I look at it as a producer and go, oh man, like the costuming and the prop budget on that must have been insane. And I'm sure there's a ton of compositing and things like that.
Yeah, the director, I'd worked with him many times who did that video, and yeah, they do a lot of animation and motion graphics and stuff. So I don't honestly, I don't know any secret behind the scenes. I wasn't there when they shot it. I just showed up to the edit room and they gave me the footage.
That's the way to do it. Sorry, I know. It's like this is just like the random. Like you've got such a professionally. We're gonna talk about aviation in 2 seconds, but professionally, like you've got this amazing reel. Like this is like this World of Red Bull thing you've done, which I'm gonna show next to you here. Like that. Like
that one. Yeah, that one. I had so much fun editing, and actually, I did put some aviation stuff in there just because I could. But that one Red Bull just supplied. Red Bull shoots a lot of stuff, and they just
they're a content studio more than
hundreds of hours of footage, and they're just like, go through it and make something cool. That was kind of the direction. So this is what came out of that.
So what I was going to say is this video, and the reason why I was so excited about talking to you, airplanes are why we're here tonight, but the reason I was so excited to talk to you is, like, this video, like, when I saw it on your website, right, like, I had actually taken this and sent it to the agency I work at and said, look at this.
You remember this video?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm a fan. Like, I'm a legitimate fan of your work professionally.
Very cool.
So anyway,
I forget that people outside of here see it. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a little inside baseball because I'm in the industry too. But anyway, okay. So let's talk a little bit about you saw this, and people in the chat are saying, that's like really interesting. But
it's not airplanes. It's not airplanes.
No. What they're saying is really how you got into aviation was really interesting.
Oh, the airplane crash. Yeah.
Yeah. But so tell me about, you did your training. You said you did your training in a Diamond DA-20. I've sat in one. They're very luxurious.
I did, yeah. I trained on Long Island at Farmingdale, Farmingdale Airport. And New York, I lived in New York City and drove out there and did my training there, and it was awesome. The DA-20 is such a fun plane, and I enjoyed learning and flying in New York. And actually, I thought it was good. It was good practice, for me at least, because a lot of radio work, a lot of airspace in New York that you got to deal with. So I felt like when I finally got my private pilot's certificate, you're pretty well set up to handle most situations when you deal with that kind of airspace and radio work. And what did I do? Soon after that, I moved to LA, which is probably even worse than New York. So it was good. It was good to have that confidence with the radio is the big thing. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, and I think those are the, like, when I think about my flying journey and I think about the things that stress me, like, I did all my training at like a non-towered airport, and so even just going to the airport that I fly out of now and like talking to the controller was like super hard for me to do. And people had, Brian had a clip. I was on Just Plain Silly's Brian Turner's show over the weekend, and he had a clip of me being like, I don't know how to talk on the radio. So when I hear you talk about being like learning to fly in New York, or learning to fly in, or continuing to fly in LA, right? Like, that's like task saturation, right? So you must be able to stay ahead of the airplane a lot better because you've had that aggressive.
Well, I definitely get rusty, and if you don't fly, I can definitely tell if I haven't flown for 3 weeks and I get up in the plane. And honestly, I find, especially in the LA airspace, because there's so many different frequencies you're going back forth to, that I can get really rusty after 3 weeks, and I'll do these I'm like, I'll just do a short little flight over to Camarillo, it's 20 minutes away, and it's a workout. It's a really good workout. Like, I just did a flight the other day to San Bernardino, passing a lot of airspace and a lot of traffic, and it's just, I don't know, it's actually healthy. I enjoy the workout, so the mind workout.
Yeah, I think when I finally get back in the cockpit after our plane's ready to go, I'm gonna be like just trying to get like my clearance to taxi, and that's gonna feel like a workout.
I would just say though that for anyone thinking of flying in these busy airspaces, not to be intimidated, because at least here, SoCal Approach, they're amazing. Those guys are awesome, and they're used to handling all types of people. So I don't know. I would just say, I would encourage people to go fly in busy airspace. It's a good learning experience, but don't be intimidated by it. So
I think that's fair. I think it's fair. Every time I say that, I'm like, oh, that would make me nervous. I get like Instagram messages from people saying like, don't be nervous. Like, I was talking about
I get weirded out when I'm on long cross countries in the middle of nowhere and it's quiet on the frequency, and it's eerily quiet.
Yeah, not
I'm like,
having anyone like.
Is anyone here?
Gary Smith asks, Brian, where did the name Wolficorn come from?
Okay. So that's a weird one. When I was a kid, me and my brother and some friends of mine, we used to make really bad horror movies with my dad's video camera. And I was totally into all the Friday the 13th movies, Halloween, all that stuff. So we made horror movies and like blood splatter stuff, awful stuff. But in one of the movies that I made, I created this creature called a Wolficorn. And so the Wolficorn was in this movie, and I had totally forgotten about that until I saw that, that movie maybe 5-6 years ago, and I meant, my 12-year-old self mentioned the Wolficorn. I was like, oh yeah, the Wolficorn. I love that name, and it's, it's like a wolf and a unicorn got together and had a baby and created the Wolficorn. So that, I wish there was more to it than that, but that's the truth.
I love it though, man. I love it. I mean, we've already talked about how I'm getting it tattooed on me, so
yeah, okay.
Now I know. I didn't, I made movies as a kid and stuff, but we never made anything like super cool horror. Like my buddy Jeremy and I once did like a radio drama. That's like as far as we got.
I didn't say mine were super cool, but we were actually the kings of. We created this amazing blood recipe with Karo syrup and red food coloring, and my friend had this way to like create these plastic packs and seal them so that we could hide them under a shirt. And
that's amazing.
What's weird about that is I cringe thinking about it now, because I was like a 12-year-old kid like on my street, and I grew up in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and we'd be walking down these streets filming these movies with like fake blood like dripping all over us, and I can only imagine the neighbors were just disturbed.
Dude, I mean, the things that we could talk about filmmaking all night. Last thing I'll say is in college, the fake blood thing. Gary Smith says he wants to see that movie now. You did not send it to me. You did not send it. We can't tee it up.
Yeah.
My wife and I were actually in this like student film in college, and it was about the Shoggoth, which is like I think a Cthulhu monster or something. Someone go Google that. But like we shot this scene in the director's apartment, and he didn't have fake blood. He didn't even like try to like get like.
Should have called me.
I should have called you, man. He just used ketchup, so he just sprayed ketchup all over.
Amateur.
Then he was like a month later, he's like, hey, like I need you to come over. I need like a cut in shot. Can you like do this quick cut in at my apartment? I was like, yeah, I got you, man. I'll come over. And he left the blood on the wall, like the ketchup blood. He never cleaned it. It was like it's just super gross. Don't do that. Don't do that, anybody. All right, I want to talk about the first video of yours that I saw and what really drew me to you. And I wonder if you could talk about this. I'm going to play this here. This is, I think, I've had magical moments flying in my airplane. A lot of things I've really enjoyed. I've never had this sort of thing happen to me, though. So hopefully that was a good tease. Yeah. Check this out, guys.
There are a few times in life where you stumble upon serendipity. And for me, this was certainly one of them.
244 Echo Romeo, radar services terminated, contact the tower, 118.45. On the tower, 4 Echo Romeo.
The golden light from the setting sun over the Mississippi River during our approach into La Crosse was truly a sight to behold.
Number 244 Echo Romeo, La Crosse, tower, runway 36, go to line.
Moments like these are why we take this adventure.
So that's just the intro to one of your videos flying to Oshkosh. But
I did a 4-part series of flying to Oshkosh last year. It's my first time to go to Oshkosh. Me and my buddy Shane, we flew out there, and honestly, that approach into La Crosse, Wisconsin was the footage just doesn't do it justice. It's like one of those things that just luck. The planets aligned for that approach. Like the clouds, it wasn't too. I was flying IFR, but it wasn't like heavy clouds, and the sun was setting, and we broke out right at the sunset and over this beautiful Mississippi River with the red and the orange colors. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's I didn't add it here. I wanted to show it again, but let us talk over it. But sorry, very professional broadcast. I think that moment, right? There's that moment where you're coming and that kind of cloud kind of like just nicks as after you've broken out, is like just feel like it fills me with such joy. And I remember watching that.
It filled me with joy.
What's that?
It filled me with joy. Me and my buddy Shane, we were just flying this approach, and we're just like, oh my God, like literally, if we timed it 5 minutes later or earlier, it wouldn't have been as epic as it was. And it was gorgeous. And I was totally blown away. I didn't even think about it. I was like, I'd never been to La Crosse, Wisconsin. I didn't know what to expect. And it was awesome. So yeah, I'm glad that the video conveys some of that emotion that you felt that, because I definitely felt it on that one.
Yeah, I think one, it made me feel and on this show I've done a fair amount of like crap talking about flying in Wisconsin, because I'm, like Pilot Annie's on here with their mountains, and Chris Palmer in Alaska, and I just like, oh, like Wisconsin's so dumb, and then like
Go to
boom, La Crosse, Wisconsin is like bam right there, like that's just, it was such a beautiful thing. I hope you guys, as you're watching, if you for some reason haven't seen these videos after this, stay right now, but after this, don't go anywhere yet. Go check.
And also,
that.
I will add that was the next day. Well, it's a funny. I really enjoyed making that series because we landed in La Crosse and we hadn't booked a hotel because it's all just like spur of the moment stuff. And we landed at La Crosse and we booked this. Not nasty, but just it was a musty little motel, and they had it was all that was available, and they had this hot tub that was in the middle of the hotel room, and so it was like two twin beds and a hot tub, and so of course I had to get in the hot tub. And if you watch part 2 of that series, I start that in the hot tub in the hotel room. And that was before we. The next day we flew to. Oshkosh and did this crazy approach. Well, it was crazy for me, the approach into Oshkosh, the VFR approach. So that was a fun time as well.
Yeah, and I didn't cue that one up, but I think everyone should check that out. You did this really cool thing where you, we saw it in the intro video where you showed some of the traffic overlays to kind of like show the true concentration of traffic there. I think the whole Oshkosh thing, the whole Oshkosh series you did is really great, and the emotion of that, like it's hard to explain what that's like. And I've never done like the big trip. Like for me, I can just like hop in the plane, and it's actually during Oshkosh it takes longer to fly there than to drive there because you have to go out to the west. But for me, it's just like intense because it's like takeoff, intensity, land.
We were definitely like, I mean, there were 2 pilots in the plane, and we're like looking around, and I mean, it's kind of weird because you're flying and you can see some planes out there, but you can't see all of them. But you've got them on an ADS-B, and it's just like lighting up like crazy, and you know they're out there, and you hear the controllers talking like crazy, and it's controlled chaos, but it's amazing, and everyone should do it. So it was a great trip.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that before ADS-B, ignorance was probably bliss.
True.
I'm gonna check in on the chat here, and then I want to talk about some of your other big time videos. Okay, let's see. Just Plain Silly as asking, why were you landing downwind in that video?
Which video?
The one I just showed. He says you're landing downwind. Is he just
La Crosse?
Yeah.
It was an instrument approach. I mean, what are you talking about? They That was on the RNAV into La Crosse.
All right,
What
so
he's talking about.
Brian with a Y is throwing shade in the chat. Okay. Some.
I love Brian, by the way. He's awesome.
No, he's all right. Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
Armando wants me to ask you about John Lennon.
What?
I don't know. I'm just trying to be a good host.
I have a little John Lennon story, but it's not aviation related. But maybe if we do it after hours, I can tell that story.
Okay, we'll save that to the end. Creative Team says, Brian, could you send a greeting to your Mexico City fans? On the spot.
Yeah, I know. Like, I can't. All my friends in Mexico, thank you. I don't even know how many people are there, so miss you guys. I want to come down and drink some mezcal and eat some tacos. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks for tuning in for Mexico City, guys. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's super
so
awesome.
You have a global reach now.
Well, and this is great because Dutchie Girl, who's in the chat, is like,
oh yeah, no Dutchie Girl.
She's up in one of those Scandinavian countries, I think. And then I forget who it is. I'm sorry if you're in the chat, but one of my Patreon supporters, who's usually here, is like New Zealand.
Oh wow!
So
that wins the award.
Yeah, so that's crazy. That's awesome. So yeah,
that's cool. That like they, obviously the hours are totally opposite. So they're, I know Dutchie Girl. I think last time she's like super early in the morning to watch this. So
yeah, it's like 3 a.m.
Awesome, Dutchie Girl.
Thanks, Dutchie. Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about Gabriella says, "We love you, Brian." So.
I love you, Gabriella.
Dutchie Girl says, I'm still in the Netherlands. Well, we couldn't remember. Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, I want to talk to you about, so you've had, I didn't do any research to qualify this statement because I am not a reporter. So,
okay.
But I think that in the last year, you have the two most viral, or near, there's got to be near the top, the two most viral aviation videos on YouTube.
I don't know the stats, but yeah, I don't know if luck is the word, because that sounds weird, but I made two videos that a lot of people saw. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, every once in a while, like one of the, heavy aviation hitters will have one that pops off a little bit. But these kind of took off, and I was just kind of wondering what that was like. And I wanted to talk about, let's talk about maybe the sadder one first.
Sure.
Let's do this. You sent me a little cut down video. I don't know. I'm just going to play it, and everyone will know what it's about right away, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
The helicopter heads southwest until meeting up with the 101 freeway and begins to follow that westbound. And it makes sense. The terrain to the west is mountainous, and the 101 is the lowest and safest route through the mountains. The problem is that the cloud layer was low enough that day that not only were a lot of the mountains obscured, but the rising terrain could have possibly prevented them from getting through the pass while remaining clear of clouds. The helicopter is flying quite low at this point, approximately 500 feet above the ground, by my estimation. You might be wondering if it's legal to fly this low. While the FAA restricts fixed-wing airplanes from flying below 1,000 feet in a congested area, helicopters don't have that restriction due to their unique operating characteristics.
There we are. Okay, we're back. So, so obviously that was about the Kobe helicopter accident.
Yeah.
Which now I'm starting to get concerned about where you live because famous people keep having aircraft accidents near where you live.
Well, that was a weird. I'll just say this: it was never my intention to make a YouTube video about that. It's kind of the day that accident happened. like every day as a pilot, I look outside the window and just like, hey, what's the weather doing? And I looked outside the window that day, and it was crazy foggy. It was crazy foggy, and sure enough, a couple hours later, I got a text message that accident happened, and like everyone, I was, whether you follow basketball or not, Kobe Bryant was an icon, so you're gut and devastated, especially when his daughter and 8 other people were there, and it was so like I said earlier, like I started flying after that Corey Lytle accident in New York. I'm just really interested in accidents and why they happen, how they happen, and this one was close to me because it was in an area that I'm very familiar with, and once I heard the accident, I was just like, I don't want to speculate, but I mean, it was crazy foggy that day, and so I initially did it for my own curiosity, and I pulled the data, the radar data, down about the helicopter's flight path, and reconstructed it in this application called Google Earth Studio, which I had randomly been playing around with just for fun on the side.
Well, I think I've seen that in some of your other videos too, right? Like you.
Yeah, this was the first time I did it in a video, though, and I was like, well, when I started piecing it all together, I was learning myself when I saw the flight path. I'm like, oh my God. So I think people might want to know this, and I mean, this is just my opinion. I'm just a local pilot that knows the area, and I could maybe provide some information from my point of view. And I put it together real quick, and I released it maybe 2 days after the accident. And I'll be honest, like I was a little scared. I was a little scared to release it. I almost didn't. It's not like any video I'd ever made before, but I hit that little send button and made it public, and it was on a Monday night, I think, and me and my girlfriend were sitting here and watching the YouTube view counts, and they were going up higher than obviously any other video I'd done before, and within like 2 hours I had like 1,000 views or something, and for me, which is like crazy. I don't get that much. And so we went to bed, and I was like, we both made a bet. We're like, how many views do you think it'll have when we wake up in the morning? And we both kind of agreed, like, oh, maybe we'll have like 7,000 views, 8,000 views. And I woke up and it had 50,000 views, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So within a week, it was at 4 million.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a big number. That's a huge number. What's that? I mean, so what I think is interesting is, and I'm just showing this next to you so people can kind of see some of the work that you did on it. I mean, on the one hand, I have so many questions, but I think the big thing that I'm wondering about is, what's that like? Because typically we make these, aviation in general, I mean, everyone in the chat, right? Like all of us notwithstanding, like we kind of, this is a thing that we don't necessarily like get to share that often. Like I think we all love to share it, but it's a niche, it's a niche thing. And
very niche.
What I wonder about is like when, if one of my videos, suddenly I woke up one morning and it had 4 million views, like I don't even know how to reconcile how this niche thing, this exciting thing that we're excited about is now we're talking about it mainstream, right? Was that weird?
No, it was definitely weird. I was getting calls from all types of media organizations. I did a couple of interviews. I was like, I'm not an expert, guys. I mean, I researched it, and I this is my perspective, and I made sure in the video I stated that many times. But I think it gave a clear, I mean, it was fairly, I think it's fairly accurate, a depiction of what happened. And when you watch that video, it's kind of, when you know the weather conditions at the time, it's, I mean, again, we have to wait till the NTSB to come up with the final report, but people were searching for answers of what happened, and I think it just helps maybe give people some explanation of maybe how this could have happened. So
yeah, and I think separately, like, guys, check that one out too. I mean, I felt like it was fair. Like, I thought, like, it wasn't like sometimes you'll see videos that was like, oh, there's like these like 100 different ideas that are all crazy. Like, I thought it was just like fact, like it felt like you were doing some investigation.
I wasn't trying to speculate. I didn't want to do that. It was 2 days after the accident, and I was nervous putting it up there just as it was, and yeah, it's crazy.
Gary Smith actually asked, he's like, did the NTSB call you?
No,
not yet. Maybe now after we did this video, because the 4 million views wasn't enough. This is what's going to push it over.
4.5 now. Yes,
4.5.
4.5. Crazy, yeah.
People are talking about doing some sort of like storm. Yeah, man, hit that like button. Let's do it. Hit me up. Hit that like button. Storm it up. We'll come up with it.
Like it.
Don't like it. Yeah. Marty is saying it'll be interesting to compare your analysis with the final NTSB. So I would encourage you. It'd be cool to like do a debrief based on what
That's a good idea. It's a really good idea. I will say that was my first, because I had never really had all my videos. The most views I'd had before that was like 20,000 or something.
I mean, that's still big.
But that was big for me for sure. Mm-hmm. But I had over 9,000 comments on that video, and there's a lot of respectful. Everyone's upset. 90% of the people in YouTube land commenting are respectful. Then you've got like this 10%. They're out there, and they have some strange, say some mean things and some out there things. It was an interesting experience. I like to read through my comments, and I read through everyone, and it was just an eye opener for me, Mr. Little YouTube channel, to see all these comments. So
I'm gonna divert. We're gonna talk about your other big viral video in a second, but I want to divert for a second. So Brian from Just Plain Silly had this thing. I asked him this. I said, "What was your worst YouTube comment you ever got?" And you were in the chat. You know what happened, and most of the people, like, people probably remember this. Like, he was like, "Oh, it's like someone wished I was dead." And I was like shocked. And then he asked me, and I said, "Well, someone just told me that my face was ugly." So
I've gotten that exact same comment as well about my face. I've gotten the face comment. Like, people like I did a video on turbulence in the Mojave Desert, and some guy came on there, and he's like, "We don't want to look at your face. We want to look outside the plane." And I kind of, what? And I don't know. I basically was like, look, I mean, because I talk to the camera a lot. I like to convey information, and I usually like to see the people that are talking to me. So I cut to my face every once in a while, but he didn't like that. So what can you do?
I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but when you go to film school, they teach you that. You gotta show the person who's talking. I mean, I don't like I do kind of like seeing my face on camera, a bit of a narcissist.
I mean, it would be weird if it was my face the whole time. Like, I would agree that would be weird. But, every once in a while, I think it
seems
okay.
fair.
Yeah.
Seems fair. All right, let me show. I'm gonna load this one up just so you can talk about it while we go. But you had another video go kind of like uber viral. And this one also had people calling you on the phone. Yeah. I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put it up. There we go. Put it up here. This guy. This is very topical.
Yeah, this was only like 2.5 months after the Kobe video.
So tell people a little bit about this video, since they can't hear what it is. Those shots in the beginning.
So, I mean, like everyone else in like for me, mid-March, COVID kind of came in, and for me, and I'm a freelance editor, and production in LA just shut down, just nothing going on. And so I've spent a lot of time at home. And one of the things I was just digging around in the news is I heard about a lot of the airliners, because they had reduced their passengers, they were parking some of their planes in Victorville, California, which is in the desert, 30-minute flight from LA. And so I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I want to go out there and see if they'll let me fly over the airplanes. And so I did a trip out there, and I kind of rigged my cameras, hoping that air traffic control was gonna let me do a flyover. Because what had happened is there's 2 runways at Victorville, and they had actually closed one of them off, and it's turned into a parking lot for airliners. And so there's currently 400. Well, when I flew, there were 400 jets on the ground there in Victorville. So I flew over there, not sure if they're going to let me do a flyover over the closed runway, because it's a closed runway. There's a NOTAM, but I asked them, and they said, well, we'll let you do a 500-foot AGL flyover. And I couldn't believe they let me. I was like, what? Really? Okay. So
yeah, that feels generous.
Yeah. Well, and I will say the Victorville controllers were amazing. They were super awesome. I felt like they were maybe happy that I was there. Just maybe it's a little slow out there in the desert. And they were amazing. So I did like 2 passes over the closed runway, and then this is a low pass over the open runway. I'm like 10 feet off the ground, just doing a low pass on the open runway here. And yeah, it was really cool. I don't know. And so I did that and made a video out of it.
I think it's a cool one. I think it also shows your filmmaking ability. I'm trying to click to the like money shot parts here. There we go. That's insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's totally
I will be honest, like I was busy flying the airplane, and I was just like, well, the cameras are just doing their thing. And so I wasn't able to fully appreciate. I mean, I appreciate the moment. I saw it, but I wasn't like, ooh, I was 500 feet over the planes, so I didn't want to mess that up.
I think that's fair.
Which I will say that video elicited a lot of negative comments from some people as well about me doing that.
I mean, if the controller says you can do it.
Here's the deal. Like the controller gave me permission to do that, and people were like, that was dangerous. A couple people in the comments said, you should just crash into those planes and, destroy them all. And
what?
And yeah, there's crazy people out there. But I was like, listen, that's one of the safest situations to be in. I'm at an airport. If my engine died, I have an open runway and a taxiway like right in front of me. So nothing, it would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Plus, I will say this, even the Com8 AV or whatever, the company that stores those planes out there, like their head of PR reached out to me, and she was like, we love your video. Thank you for doing this. Like, can we use your footage? And I'm like, absolutely.
You're like, absolutely, if you
I had
pay my hangar rent for a few months.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's cool. I mean, we're in a weird time right now, and what I love about the content you've been creating during the pandemic is you made a video that was like, should we do this, right? Like, should we even be flying? Which I thought was really important. It was a good question to ask. This video with the aircraft all lined up, just we said 400 of them, right? Like, it's like so many.
400, but they said they have 50 more Southwest jets coming in, so I think now it's closer to 500. So
I mean, that's crazy. And we live in we're living through history right now, right? And so I think it's really cool for you to like try to figure out what this thing in my head is like. So I was like, that looked really strange on camera. So you're doing this you're doing historical work. Like I think that video in aviation history is going to be one of the things that helps us remember how our part of the world was affected. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's cool.
It's crazy how that footage has been played on news outlets all around the world. I still get requests for that footage, so it's crazy.
That's awesome. I'm gonna go into the chat real quick. We're almost out of time already, but I want to talk about your plane, and I want to talk about. We've got a game we got to play. We got to play a game, but before we do that, Bender Aviation asks, "What video editing software do you use?"
Premiere Pro. I'm a Premiere Pro kind of guy. Adobe Creative Cloud. All that stuff.
Solidarity, me too. Enjoy making duplicates of your projects all the time because it crashes. I'm just scrolling through to check for any other questions here about this. No fogged glasses yet. Yeah, it was really hot out in Wisconsin today, which means, well, you know that, A2 Papa. It was really hot today, so my air conditioning was running like crazy. So it's actually quite cold down here in the basement. So.
I don't fog up your glasses like you are with Brian Turner, apparently.
Yeah, he just hits me a different way. I
know he's got that thing.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got something.
Still dreamy.
Yeah, a little bit. So, all right, let's talk about, because people in the chat have been asking about your aircraft. You sent me some photos. Let me pull those up for everybody. So there she is.
Yes, 244 Echo Romeo.
Which, when you and I were talking on the phone, I think it was yesterday, I was just saying, also, really pretty aircraft.
Yeah, thank you. It's a 1992 Grumman Tiger. It's the original paint. That's been there since 1992. It's just been well taken care of. I've owned it for about 3.5 years at this point, and it's been awesome. It's been a great experience. I flew in a flying club, flying a Cessna Cardinal for 8 years before this with 9 other guys, and I finally decided I wanted to kind of go on my own, and always had a thing for Grummans, and came across this baby.
So tell me about that. Why do you have a thing? I'm learning about Grummans because the other Brian with a Y has got a Grumman as well, and so after talking to you and talking to him, I'm trying to learn more about what is it about? I mean, obviously the canopy is a cool thing. What is it about for you?
I would say for every airplane's got trade-offs. And compromises, and everyone's got a different mission, something that they want to do with their airplane. And for me, as a guy that I'm not doing any crazy flying. I definitely do some cross countries. I've done some long cross countries, but it's just a great all around airplane. It's actually one of the fastest airplanes in its class. It's 180 horsepower, and it's one of the fastest 180 horsepower airplanes out there. It's a low wing. It's very smooth, very slick, very aerodynamic. It's comfortable for both the front seat and the back seat passengers. The back seats fold down, and so you have this huge cargo storage in the back. But I've gone back there, and you can camp out there. You can lay in the back seat and sleep.
Oh, you're selling me now, man. Okay.
It's the canopy. It gets hot here in Southern California. You just crack that baby open on those 95-degree days, and you can open it when you're flying in the air, and it's so nice flying. You can open it not all the way, but 12 inches you can crack it, and it's a totally different vibe when I like to kind of cruise low and slow, 3,000 feet over the ground, not in a race to get anywhere, but I'll just crack that window open, and it's just fun. And it's a fun airplane to fly. It's very, very, the controls are snappy. It's not like a truck. And the visibility is great too. So
I was going to ask you about that because I've got time in J3s, high wing, that's more like a motorcycle, right? You can have the door open or whatever. And I've got time. I love these photos, man. I've got time in Cessnas, 172s, and then in like Piper Cherokees. And Cherokee's a fine aircraft. I like the Cessna better just flying the Cessna better. But
Sure.
I also, like, the visibility is a huge thing for me that I love.
Visibility is amazing. I did, like I said, I flew a Cessna Cardinal before, and as far as Cessnas go, the Cardinal's got great visibility because the wings are kind of recessed a little bit, so you can actually, when you're turning onto final, you can actually see the runway, and that's nice. But something about the low wing and the canopy it opens, I don't know, I love it. And on top of that, it's a mechanically pretty simple airplane, so you're going to relatively have, lower maintenance costs than, say, like a Cardinal, which has got a constant speed prop. This is a fixed pitch prop, yet it's still really fast, even for a fixed pitch prop. And so mechanically simple, less things to break. I think it's the best airplane in its class for what it does, my opinion.
So when you say best airplane in its class, who is it competing against in your mind?
The Cherokees, the 172s, the Arrows. It's actually, an Archer is a retractable, and it's actually faster than an Arrow.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I can fly 133 knots true airspeed on 8.5 gallons per hour. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna go to the chat here. People have some questions about you and some questions about the Grumman, and then we're gonna play a little game, and then we'll be all wrapped up. Wolf Pilot asks, how long have you been a pilot, and how many hours do you have in the logs?
Like I said, I started flying in 2000, like January 2007. I checked my logbook. So what was that, 13 years now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have crazy. I think I've got about 700 hours, maybe.
That's a big number.
I would like to fly more than I do, but yeah.
Folks are asking about, do you like, so you've got a Tiger. Do you have any time in Yankees, and which do you like better?
I've never flown in a Yankee. I would love to, because like I said, I learned in a DA-20, which is a two-seater, and I love that. Mm-hmm. So the Yankees, I have heard, are fun and sporty. Again, what I've heard is they have kind of different handling characteristics than a Tiger or a Cheetah. But some people have really put some like 160 horsepower engines in those AA, the Yankees, and so some of those are apparently pretty great speed demons and good climbers, but they don't have much of a range, so they're not good cross-country airplanes. The Tiger is a great cross-country airplane. It holds 51 gallons of fuel, and I can go easily 550 miles with reserve, with zero wind, so it's great.
Yeah, that's definitely like more than we can pull off in the 172. I mean, we're close, right? But you've definitely got a little leg up there. What I think we should do is, so you've got a Grumman, Brian from Just Plain Silly's got a Grumman, and then I should get a Grumman, and then we could be like the B parentheses Ryan or Brian or whatever, like Grumman gang.
I love it. I love it. So make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to find another job, and then, yes, I will buy a Grumman. Yeah, it'll be great.
I need another job, too.
Yeah, you and I are in the same boat right now. Guys.
COVID's messed me up, man.
COVID just recently messed me up, and we're I thought I was getting a text about the show, but I started a Facebook fight, and someone's texting me, and it distracted me. I apologize. So, all right, do you want to play a game with me? Can we play a game?
Yeah, sure. I like games.
You're in it to win it. All right, guys. So here's the deal. A couple weeks ago, we did this with good friend Josh Flowers, and I think it's something that you guys liked. It's short final. You like those graphics? I can make them
Ooh.
blink. Yeah, short final. All right, so there are like no rules. There's no rules for short final, really. I'm gonna ask you a bunch of kind of one-word answer questions. I got my little cheat sheet here, and we're gonna just we're gonna get through as many as we can. And I'm gonna cue up the music, and then I'm gonna.
The timer makes me nervous. I feel like it adds anxiety to the situation, but I'll try.
All right, let's see what we can do. I mean, obviously, you just get less points if you get less points if you don't answer as many. All right, so here we go. We're gonna play short final. All right, fat tires or skinny tires?
Why not a fat tire?
All right, cool. What does a Wolficorn say?
Does a Wolficorn say? Arr!
All right, love it.
Like a wolf pirate. I don't know what that is. But...
All right. You like tail wheel, nose wheel?
I'm a nose wheel guy.
Yeah, it seems right. All airplanes should be what color?
Obviously, I'm partial to mine, but I'm always a big fan of polished aluminum airplanes.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay, ever been scared in an airplane?
Yeah, a couple times. Nothing crazy.
All right, other than the Grumman, favorite civilian aircraft?
Oh, I've always been a Bonanza fan. I like the Bonanzas.
Yeah, they look good. All right, favorite Warbird?
I would say I'd say between a P-51 and a SR-71. Those are weird-looking planes.
Everyone was joking about me not starting the timer in time, but my error made it end exactly at the end of the music. So, take that.
Did I win anything, or?
I mean, I don't have anything to give. So,
pride.
You got pride. There's one other one to ask you. Favorite. Let's. Maybe this is your John Lennon story. Your favorite passenger you've ever had in your airplane?
Definitely not John Lennon. I would say my girlfriend Carla and my dad.
That's awesome. Awesome. I got a couple more questions in the crowd before we wrap up. Guys, if you have anything else to ask Bryan before we wrap up for tonight, hit it in the chat real quick. People are asking about the John Lennon story. Is it long or short? Is it?
I mean, I don't even know. This is my only connection to John Lennon was. This has nothing to do with aviation, by the way. When I lived in New York City, I had a meeting with May Pang, who was John Lennon's assistant, but also his lover for 2 years. I went to her house, and she showed me a bunch of John Lennon memorabilia that she had at her house because she was was with him for 2 years, including some original songs that have never been released and some film footage that actually is really interesting. She was really sweet, and she goes, John had this 16 millimeter film footage, and I've never seen it. And do you have a way of playing this footage? I'm like, yes, I have a 16 millimeter projector at my house. Would you like me to look at it for you? So she gave me some John Lennon never seen film reels, and I was like, oh my God, this could be amazing. Like, this could be a groundbreaking thing. So I spooled up the footage, and it was like dailies, which is like the extra film footage from a French documentary that he had shot in the 70s. So, which was super cool. But yeah, that's the John Lennon story. Sorry to disappoint if it wasn't that amazing.
I mean, the archival film thing's super cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about where people can find you and like what's up next for you. What's new? What's coming up?
As far as finding me, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I'm pretty terrible with social media. I would just say go check me out at on YouTube at Wolficorn TV, and that's where you'll find me. I am on Instagram as Mr_Wolficorn. You can find me there as well. But yeah, YouTube is where you're going to find all my videos. So, and as far as what's coming up, I would say, honestly, COVID really messed up my schedule. I had some really cool trips planned that I had to shelve, but we'll do those later. I have a possibly cool trip to Kansas next month for this YouTube get-together, YouTube Aviator get-together. I do have like in the works a Tiger King video, but it's Grumman Tiger King. So I haven't finished it yet, but I invested $20 in a wig, and I had an amazing musician friend of mine create a song for me. But I feel like the Tiger King thing that was kind of a couple months ago, so I don't know. We'll see.
It's still on TikTok, man. That song.
Yeah.
That song.
But besides that, I've got some, just the typical stuff I like to do. Maybe some camping, some flying camping trips coming up and stuff like that. So.
Well, I was gonna say, you made me think of something, and texting with our other friend Bryan about you, and one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting and resonated with me is that you never do anything halfway, like the custom music that you're having written, that the way that you approach the content you make. There's always that extra layer of just it's the this is another film term that people don't.
I guess. I mean,
it's the idea of like have you ever heard? I won't tell the story for everyone, but if you've heard the term "bump the lamp," like you're always bumping the lamp.
I don't know.
Okay, so everyone go. That'll be your homework for next week. Go research. It's a term from the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Disney animators, they bump the lamp. There's a scene where they bump a lamp, and that's hard when you're animating a rabbit. So anyway, there's always that extra layer. I guess I just told the story. There's always the extra layer of quality in your stuff, and I think that's why people need to check you out. So okay, so they're gonna check you out. Everyone's gonna go after this. Now you're gonna go to subscribe if you for some reason aren't a subscriber of Wolficorn, and check it out.
I would just like to say that besides those viral videos, I've got a bunch of other ones that are those are the kind of the atypical videos I like to make. I typically like to make fun adventure travel trips that you can do in a small airplane, that places that you might not otherwise go if you didn't have the plane, like strange out of the way places. Those are always interesting to me. So those are the things that I like to do.
Yeah, and I apologize. I think we talked a little bit about kind of like the flashier side, because it feels just so... I don't know anyone who's had that happen to them, so I wanted to ask you about that stuff. But
yeah, of course.
But like totally the stuff that like the reason I come to your channel more was just like the like, here's the cool stuff you can do with an airplane. And it gives me hope as someone who's kind of grounded right now to see the stuff that you're doing.
It's still amazing to me. I'll be out flying around, and I love it, and I sometimes just like pinch myself, and I can't believe that whoever they are, that I can't believe they let me do this. Because I find like an inner peace with it, and you can kind of put all your other thoughts aside and just concentrate on the flying, and then, I don't know, I love it. It's nice.
Dude, you're speaking my language. I don't know who they are either, but
whoever they
are. Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Bryan, it was awesome to have you on, and
thanks for having me. I've been a big fan of yours for a while. I found your videos, I don't know, about a year ago, and maybe a year and a half ago, and so when I saw that you started, you had a little downtime, I think, and then you started. No, it happens. I've done the same, but I was happy to see that you're out making more videos, because your stuff is great.
Well, luckily, I've got a lot more time in my hands, so I can make even more.
We all do. Some videos.
Awesome, dudes. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up right here, everyone. I mean, obviously, short final. I should turn that off. There we go. Here I am. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This was really fun with my new friend, Bryan. We got to definitely fly together sometime soon. And, be sure to tune in next week. We got Hal Bryan and Chris Henry, the authors of that really cool book about World War II pilots experiencing the EAA B-17. And then in July, we're going to have a lot of cool people on the show, too. So hope you guys are all good. Stay safe, fly safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.